welcome to another episode of Rebel City Podcast. 136.
136,
Yes,
definitely
man.
136.
I know it. It's because we've not had 2 weeks between the recordings.
We can remember what happened just about last week.
I know. Aye. Here with Matt and Dave, as always, and it's been an interesting week because we had, this is Sunday, the 7th, is it?
The afternoon after the day before.
Yes, so yesterday was the coronation of King Charles III. And, I mean, did anybody catch it?
So, Stacey and Alex were taking Stacey's dad to Pitlochry for the weekend for his birthday, and I took the opportunity to stay in my bed until lunchtime, and then I got up and I went and seen St Roch's with Dom and Chris. So I completely and utterly body swerved it. I've obviously seen reaction and stuff since that we'll get into, but at the time I made a conscious decision to be like, bank holiday weekend, I'm going to go and watch The Rock and, catch up with some mates and just completely tune this out.
Did you see his fingers? They're getting bigger?
So there was the picture of the ring on the ring holder, and then his big fucking dauber finger, trying to stroke it, and you're just like, dude, he's got it went from sausage fingers to dick fingers he's got now, so it's it's so horrible, man. I seen the footage of that and the picture of the thing that was...
What the fuck is actually going on with his hands though? I've never seen anything like that. The last time we seen him, he had one big swollen red hand. It was like the opposite of Jeremy Beadle. But no, yesterday, I don't know if it was photoshopped, but the photo that I seen, it was his middle finger is now became the mothership of the fingers.
Aye.
And then the other ones look like wee sort of side fingers. But what the fuck is actually going on?
I don't know. What is it like, in eras gone by, it was like a symbol of a king's, stature to have things like gout. So, I mean, maybe he's just cram full of fucking pate and red wine just to try and, give off the air of his own excellence or whatever. I don't know, but...
He's not a vegetarian.
He doesn't look like a vegetarian to me.
Is he?
I think he's a I think he's
He's a bit an eco warrior,
I know he's an eco warrior, and I think he's a vegetarian, but is it clubbed fingers? Is that what he's got? Is that what you're saying? Is it? Because that's obviously, I think that's
It looks like somebody's tied an elastic band around his wrist about 9 years ago.
Right.
It's like they're swollen.
It's ready just to pop. You could just stick a wee pin in and it would just go... You know what I mean? And be gone.
They're scary looking, but there was a bit where he had to put a glove on,
right.
a white. So I think it was his right hand had to go into a glove, and he was struggling so bad. And somebody was pure.
If the glove don't fit, you must have quit.
Exactly. Somebody was pure. The last time we seen somebody struggle, they also had murdered their wife, and you're like pure. Oh man, fucking hell! Shots fired.
That's a good one.
The best one I seen for the day was the Mark Nelson tweet, and I think he was getting fucking dog's abuse all the rest of the day for it, where they were like, oh, Charles and Camilla arrive in the back of the carriage, not wearing their seatbelts, a pure beautiful tribute to Diana. You're just pure, it's 8 o'clock in the morning he went, or whatever it is, and all he's done all day is just retweet people just fucking abusing him all day long, which, I'm sure he'll have enjoyed.
I did see, I seen some commentary on Twitter about all these fucking, nutters that are down there at the front were all pure, we'll never accept Camilla as queen, and, Diana's the pure queen of hearts, and then it's Coronation Day and all like that.
Oh, no, right. Years ago,
pure. Remember that when see when you seen some of them, the ones that were camped out, man, you're the only thing they've got in common with the royal family is the level of inbreeding that's been happening in their families. When the last time that Wayne was born, it was pure, I want to see the baby. Bring out the baby. There's the baby. And it's these people are fucked, man. What the fuck is going on?
Aye. I did see one during the week. It was Sky News or whatever it was talking to a fella, and he was getting the tent set up on the Tuesday on the mall and all the rest of it. And he's pure, I'm here to see the coronation. And I'm like, somebody should tell that dude that is not where it's happening. It's happening 2 miles away. And whatever Westminster Abbey, but it's just a pure, I'm camping out here. So you're camping out to let this guy not to observe the actual ceremony or be part of it or anyway. You're in a tent for 4 days before the event, so that a guy can drive past you in the street, and you're just That is a fucking weird mentality that I just like. We should be taught. This is like national therapy. We should be like, why are we like this? Like, why are some of us like this? Come on, like, I genuinely, as we've said before in other ones, I don't get it. It's a level of weirdness that just pickles my head. Like, I can't even like speculate on it. You know what I mean?
We came for like both of us, me and Matt, like we came for Irish Catholic immigrant families, right? So I think that we obviously are not going to get it. For the day that I can remember, my dad was like, "Fuck the Queen." Like my dad be like, they don't fucking help us out. Like, fuck them.
Aye.
But I'd be interested. Do you have any royalists in your family, Dave? Like coming from England, and like, what's the attitude within your family? Because like I said, me and Matt have got a fucking super bias when it comes.
I
to
think my man and dad were always pretty polite about this type of thing. I don't think that my man's very like into her Catholicism and the like turn the other cheek, you know, forgive, etc., etc. Like she was never. I think she go, oh, fuck them again. You know what I mean? Like on the telly for something daft, she brought off. You know what I mean? But I don't remember growing up in a household where there was particularly a lot of like anti-monarchy sentiment. It was very much like live and let live. But like, I fucking hate them.
Right, okay. Fair enough.
For me, well, my mum's not got any real like denomination in terms of religion. If she's quite a spiritual person in a lot of ways, and I think her view on the monarchy is like she's not a monarchist as such. She's not a royalist or anything like that. But I think she respects some of the level of duty that someone like the Queen has sort of performed. And I think she obviously respects that, but I don't think that she would particularly like she's not a mad royalist that would like be putting up flags.
It wouldn't make a lot of difference to her life.
No, and I mean my granddad like served in like the war and things like that, and I think like that generation would have been probably far more supportive. Now, like my granddad was Welsh, my grandma's from Glasgow actually, and I think that they were far more like supportive of the royals as such. But
I think that's very much a hang its time into it, you know, king and country.
But growing up, like I would say like from where I grew up and my time in Glasgow, it takes a special kind of person that really gets royalist about it nowadays. Like when you're facing all the shit that we are in like a day-to-day society, if you're still taking that time to sort of support a hereditary leech, it takes a special kind of individual, in my opinion. The kind that would go and stand on the mall 4 days, either taking that off his holiday or just didn't have a job in the first place.
The Venn diagram is a circle,
and I think so for me, like I don't think that the royals fit into the modern scope of society. I think now they've become like this corrupt sort of CEO of a company, it feels like now, but the company doesn't produce anything, it doesn't employ anyone, it doesn't do anything. It just takes like, and gets mad tax breaks, like
this is the
everything.
thing, he's just avoided what was it, £600 million in inheritance when his mother passed, that was like tax free, and that's on top of the whatever 1.2 to 1.8 billion that he's already worth. And I think
also what they own. It's all
this
the
is
shit
what
that
I was going to say when you were like, oh, I think he's a vegetarian. So prior to, you know, when he was Prince of Wales, he was in charge of what's called the Duchy of Cornwall, and that is basically like the royal family's business. It's now been handed after, you know, William to like run, you know, quote unquote, and like they are very like it's all eco-friendly stuff that's come from. So I don't know if maybe that's where like, oh, he's a vegetarian, because a lot of that stuff, but it's a multi-billion pound company they've got, that they're just it's the, you know, the Prince of Wales's company.
I think they were saying the jewellery on show was worth something like 6 billion yesterday. Between the crown, her crown,
and they never paid £6 fucking billion for it.
£6 billion.
They fucking lifted it in van. You know what I mean?
I mean, we've spoke about stuff like this before, but it is literally like, I mean, the jewel in his crown is like, was it like plundered for India or something like that? And even like there was like a whole thing about the South African nobles handing like $1 billion. I don't know what money we're talking about, like, because this is all just BBC reporting, like, you know, that's popping up in like graphics.
It's like rand. It's like I know it used to be.
No, it was like £1 billion worth of, you know, national Jules, but then they're like, aye, but that was the apartheid. That was like the expat white, government of South Africa.
They gave him that like yesterday, and I was like, fuck man, that's still pretty generous.
They gave it to his great granddad in like 1903 or something like that. And I think like, I mean that like yesterday,
of the British Army for £100 million.
Exactly, like yesterday you had people like fucking obviously, the circle wank of like fucking Piers Morgan and all these fucking people. Like he was saying, this is an example of what makes Britain great. And I think that there's a huge percentage of people are like, what you're witnessing and saying this is what makes Britain great, to me is like, this is the reason why I hate Britishness, because we're literally parading like fucking blood diamonds, and like people were murdered for this shit. Economies of like full continents were crashed in aid of like us thriving,
so somebody can sit in a set of gold PJs and get a new hat every now and again.
It was crazy, man. It was crazy, but they were saying
without no shame, but like self-awareness, like, and that's the thing that of the pictures and stuff that I've seen where you, like you say, is Charlie's there in these fucking gold PJs getting rings and hats and scepters, and cunts are hanging about with swords in the background and all the rest of it. You're just like, this is just absurd. Like,
it's got to be the last though, right? Like, this has got to be the last one. You think that like William and like the next line is going to be like,
I'm on modern.
This is ridiculous. I'm just going to keep the company, because they're never going to give it all up. But they're just going to be like, we'll just take the company and fuck off and give like something back. But like, they can't like. I mean,
I don't think that's the way this lot have been raised. I think they see it as that sort of duty that you're talking about when you're mentioning your mum.
God-given
like,
right.
It's something that's bestowed on them, because it is what you have to believe in those circumstances, or else you're like the ginger one being like, "Pure, what the fuck is this offer?" You know what I mean? Like, but I don't know. I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon. Especially when they're still actively like spouting out wains everywhere.
I think if they were smart, they would do that. I'm with you. Like, I think if they want to preserve any sort of influence on, the planet or whatever, they would take a public step back. They would stop spending 300 million quid on putting a fucking crown on some cunt's head for a start.
I've been to Holland a few times, and their royal family is now like done that kind of
symbolic. Some of the Scandinavian ones as well.
They've removed themselves. Like, there's quite a few countries that have done it,
and they still maintain parliament and shit.
They still maintain a lot of shit, and like they'll still be like House of Lords or whatever it fucking looks like. I don't know. But I mean, I didn't watch any of the Coronation. Okay, so I just completely patched the whole thing. Like, was not bothered. Did not give a fuck. I did see some funny memes. Like, there was like one where they showed you like walking past all their gold plates, and someone said like, "Can't believe they won Wimbledon that many times." But like, are there any other kind of highlights like from you were saying there's some mad people there or something?
Oh, just I mean, other than the pure nutters that were at the front, like I said, the pure like we love them, we love the Royals. He was proper like in a stinker of a fucking mood, man. Like, his face was fucking tripping him the full day. But I was like that last night, like somebody was like that's fucking, his face is tripping him. I'm like, man, I mean, can you imagine the actual stress that would go into something like that? And also you've got like fucking probably 10, 15 people putting big fucking cloaks on you. Like, you would be like, get this to fuck me. He's an old man. Like, he's an old man, but he was getting, I think they were...
I seen the footage in the back of the carriage where he was like clearly just gaffing Camilla as if, let's get this fucking undone already.
But then I think when he was coming out of Westminster Abbey, it's Westminster Abbey where they crown him.
I think so, aye.
The page boys that were like carrying his cloak, he was getting proper like fucking, I think they were getting further away from each other, and it was starting to pull his cloak, and I think he was like, fucking wrap it. Like, I think we said this the last time where he was
first world problems, eh?
I think we said this the last time where he was signing himself in. So that was like ceremonial yesterday. We need to remember that these people are human beings. Like, I get it. Like, I don't like the fucking money. Like, fuck them, get them to fuck. But see this like analysing every sort of frame of a video to be like, look at his face, he's a dick. And it's like, he's an old man that's he had to fucking sit in front of a camera for like 10 hours yesterday. Like, I'd be like, get this to fuck, do you know what I mean? But other than that, like, the thing that any other sort of highlights was this whole pledge thing. Like, I listened to it, so I was driving, and it was after it had been done. It was just before like Clyde's Super Scoreboard kicked on. I was listening to Clyde 1, and they cut to some like sounded honestly like they'd wheeled out some like old man, and he was like, you know, I swear to my king in front of God, and I was just like,
pure
what
old
fucking
school
century
BBC
is this?
standard voice. Aye.
What century is this, and why are we having to like pledge to these cunts like pure, you know, we'll lay down our lives. It's like, get this to fuck, man. Like, I can't get on board with shit like that. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, it seemed a bit tone deaf and a bit ridiculous to me as well. Like, for all that, when he, you know, got the job to start with, we were saying, oh, do you know what? He's had an all right start. Seems as if he's handling it quite well or whatever. Like, we've not really seen an awful lot of him since. And I don't know how much Merriam we're going to see going forward either. You know what I mean? Like, because it does seem like to have the kind of disposition that he's just like there to get it out and done with. You know what I mean? Like, I think when you've seen his mum doing these like public engagements and stuff like that, there was almost, and it might just be that people were never looking because they had so much admiration for her. I don't know, but you never seen people after like the Queen had been somewhere going, fucking that'll boot. You know what I mean?
Do a face bastard. Like, what's that all
it was
about?
always like, oh, her husband said something fucking stupid again, or like her son's landed a helicopter on a golf course or something daft. But like, I don't ever really remember like thinking back and people being like pure, oh, the fucking Queen did this fucking daft thing, or like looked as if she didn't want to or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and it's something that has been flung at him a few times now. You know what I mean? But he's lived an entire life of privilege. Like, you know, this is like something that he'll have been waiting for his whole life, and then getting there. And the reality is that he is just like an ornament that everybody else is there fluffing around until he gets out there again. You know what I mean? Like, the ceremony was for everybody else. You know what I mean? Like,
do you think he can get called up to court to like be a witness for his brother's court cases?
Absolutely not.
I know.
Camilla is like a fucking inspiration to any side bitch, by the way. Man. Like, she's played a fucking blinder. She's went for like the bit on the side to Queen, and like, but it's been a long game. Like,
she fucking picked
30
Diana.
years.
You know what I mean? She was like pure, I know what my man likes. You know what I mean?
Did
Like,
she
she
pick?
was involved in the process of picking Diana. You know what I mean? Like, so that's how far back she goes with him. You know what I mean? Like, why they wouldn't have just let them get married in the first place, I've got fucking no idea, but whatever.
Maybe they're too closely related, so if their genes mix, then it would just be like, you're gonna have some,
Maybe.
you can't have that as the lineage. You just can't have it.
Perhaps. Why's nobody done the meme? See, like the whole like, how am I doing, boss? And Jockstein, you're doing great. Why's nobody done a Camilla Diana meme? Like, seriously, somebody needs to get on that shit. There was, I mean, we'll talk about the protesters. Like, we seen yesterday that temporarily they made it illegal for you to have a peaceful protest.
Or have any sort of opinion on anything that the government didn't like. It was a bit, this was the, you know, if the ceremony and, you know, the kind of surrounding faff around it was like just absurd, which, you know, it was literally like something like a fucking Monty Python sketch. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Life of Brian. It's just like, I think it was one of the lassies for, she works for the Dundee Courier, Kirsty Strickland. She was like, it's all just silly. It's all just really silly. Like, see, when you watch it and then, like, fair enough, you're sitting passively watching it. It's this thing. But then see if you actually think about it while you're watching it, it is just ridiculously silly. And I'm like, aye. So, aye, the stuff after it, like, just with the protests and everything, just disgusting. Like, it's almost like the polar opposite is you can have a, like, tongue-in-cheek laugh about the first bit because it is just ridiculous, especially what a lot it's based on. But when you look at the other one, you're like, you know, they sent letters to Republic and to other sort of non-monarchy sort of protesters and protest groups and said to them, right, look, you know, as they always do, here are, you know, what we expect to, the terms to which you agree to get this protest. And they were like, cool. And then like a couple of days before it, one of these Tory nutters came out and ran his mouth about how, be warned, you know, you can protest, but you cannot disrupt and yada, and then called a few of these organisations out by name, and these organisations like Republic came forward and like, hold on a minute, what the fuck? Like, we already have an agreement in place with the police, as we always do for these. We are in close negotiations with all parties involved in this. Like, I don't get why this guy's out threatening us in the press and mouthing off, and then you get there on the day and, you know, what they're saying, like 56, 57 arrests, largely targeted. You know, they didn't just wade in with like batons or anything like that, but, you know, the 50 to 60 people that are there at least for like social media, appear to be people who were involved in the organising. So almost as if they were explicitly targeted by police for organising these events. But again, we'll wait and see on that one. You know what I mean? Like, I did find it funny that they were like, oh, there's going to be a Not My King sort of peaceful protest at Trafalgar Square, and that'll be, you know, respectful and blah 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 on the day, and the King will pass by and he'll see this protest, and then they put them in Trafalgar Square, and then they put a fucking 10-foot fence in Trafalgar Square. Nobody could see in or out, and you're just like, they actually like lied to people and then essentially penned them in. You know what I mean? Like, so it was everything that we feared when, you know, these new sort of policing and, you know, sort of protest bills were passing, that it would be used to stifle anything resembling sort of peaceful protest. Thankfully, up in Glasgow, you know, what was it? All Under One banner went ahead, and some of the footage for that yesterday looked incredible. You know, the numbers were looking great, and again, that sort of positive sort of civic sort of spirit was there, as well as obviously people, you know, sort of protesting the sort of coronation and stuff like that. But, you know, down in London, it seemed like it was a very different sort of kettle of fish.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, any sort of before I mention anything outside of the South of England, I'm way, man. It's like we can't even disagree with what's going on. We're in taxpayers' money. Do you know what I mean? And literally, like, we funded that yesterday. It was like estimated like
paying for people to arrest you for having your invoice.
That's crazy. I find that fucking crazy. And we, as we've said so many times on this podcast, like, we like to sit and point the finger at fucking China and Russia and North Korea, but do we really live in anything much different for that, other than, you know, of course, maybe a couple of the protesters might have fucking found themselves getting flung into a fucking solitary confinement or something like that.
So one of the horror stories that I heard, and again, still no fully verified, I don't think, was that there is an organisation on London's streets that helps homeless people at night on weekends and stuff like that, and provides them with things like rape alarms and other, you know, sort of stuff that might be necessary for their survival on the streets, unfortunately. Now, they were out the night before in the area doing what they always do, and were apparently like arrested en masse because the police felt like something was being set up so that rape alarms could be thrown at horses to scare them during the procession, and like all sorts of mad shit was thrown about, and it was just like, that does not seem like a real thing that people would be doing. And I think like a custody searcher, who these people are, if this is how it's panned out, would have, you know, assuaged any fears about what they were up to. You know what I mean? Like, but again, how much of that are we going to see in any of the mainstream stuff? I don't know. And then how reliable is the stuff you see on social media? Again, I don't know.
We just don't know.
What I mean? Like,
do we?
so it seems as if some really heavy-handed shit went on. It seems as though some of the excuses for it have been pretty flimsy so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were never going to allow anything to really meaningfully interrupt or interfere with what was going on yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
Dave, you were saying that Katy Perry couldn't find her seat or something. Like, what was
Yeah, I got a like. You can tell how much of this I've seen, by the way, and where I'm getting my information at the moment. But I've seen literally like 3 clips of this whole thing, and one was the Wimbledon plates. The other one was Katy Perry wandering around, not knowing where her seat was, and trying to peer around a massive hat. And then I was like, why is Katy Perry even there? Did you say Nick Cave was there?
Nick Cave. I seen Nick Cave. Kelly Jones was there.
Right.
And then Katy Perry. And you're like, what are these people doing there? I mean, why the fuck is Nick Cave at the Coronation?
I was going to say, like, at least Katy Perry at least technically shagged an Englishman once. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that was why she got an invite. I don't know about Nick Cave though. How many Englishmen
she shagged
shagged?
Russell Brand, who's like the most anti-establishment.
Yeah,
surely that puts you on like several watch lists straight away, but who knows?
But I mean, like, even people like Kelly Jones, I don't know, am I like naive to be like, what the why you, even if you get an invite, you'd be like, why are you going? Do you know what I mean?
I think they've all taken MBEs, haven't they? So they must be all MBEs, like people who like they can basically phone up and be like, oi, we gave you that MBE because remember, something sly, you know, you've done this, we got you out, like get to this wedding. We need some
especially when that caveman, that cave definitely
famous
like,
faces. He was probably like bringing like a kilo of coke into the country or something. Back
he's definitely been through some sort of humiliation ritual. That's definitely fucking happened to that caveman.
Well, if he's no, he's certainly going through one now, because a lot of people are like, dude, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, But the one I seen yesterday while scrolling through Twitter was Ant and Dec, and you're like,
were they there?
aye,
Oh, man.
but like,
Were they not presenting it?
they caught, aye, probably. They did everything else, but there was the one. What's the one that? What's the one with the black hair?
Did they not both get black hair?
And the forehead.
Aye, the one. Aye, him. Right. So, Ant, he's the one that's had these issues with his drinking, drugs, and
painkillers
divorces and all
like
that kind of stuff.
He's the Andrew of the group.
And they were doing that thing where they just caught him in an odd moment where he was like blinking and like just kind of like focusing and running, and they were like, "Oh, when you and your cousin have been swallowing the whole night before, but you've got to make the wedding in the morning." And I'm like, I've been to like, well, I mean, fuck, man, that one up in Perth where we were in a fucking nightclub till 3 in the morning, and then the next time we were at that service, just like, I'm actually going to fucking die. You know what I mean? Like, this
struggling.
Ant and Dec were us sitting at a bench like pure, oh, for fuck's sake, it looked like it anyway. And I'm like, see if I'd got an invite, I think I'd have struggled to resist that. I think I'd have been like, we'll just go. And, like a once in a lifetime thing like that. You're kind of like, somebody's clearly made a mistake inviting me, but why don't we just like fill a couple of hip flasks and go and see what the fuck happens? You know what I mean?
I suppose. I hope that's what Hamza Youssef did, but I mean, I doubt that guy's drinking. But I just find it strange, especially guys like Kelly Jones. I don't know much about Nick Cave, but just where Kelly Jones comes from, like pure Valley Boy, Wales, the way that the establishment just tore the fucking heart out of the communities, I just could not go and sit there. I just couldn't do it, man.
I don't know, man. I think these things, when certain artists, there comes a time like, you know, the Phonics are still a good band and have had good songs and albums over the years, but there's been some pretty sizable gaps. And I think like having, you know, an MBE or some of these sort of accolades that allows you to pop up at the summer concert, the garden party, and the Coronation, and the Queen's Funeral, or whatever it is that Tom Jones and Shirley Bassey are always rocking up to and playing. Like, maybe that's quite useful to you sometimes when maybe you're not selling as many records, or maybe you're not booking as many gigs as you used to. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know.
A wee opportunity to get yourself in front of the cameras.
You're going to be on BBC One afternoon, playing at the water fountain with all the rest of them as they do every couple of years or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so it must have its benefits, or people just wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? Like,
aye, true. I would just be more in the banker. Fuck that. I'd rather make less money than be fucking seen anywhere near it. Honestly,
absolutely. Aye. I mean, it's mental. I think it's
very un-rock and roll.
Well, I mean, I think it takes it back to like a pure old school mindset where like, I seen the thing where like Alex Salmon and what's her knob when she was running the Ash Regan, talking about the Stone of Destiny. And it's like, we should not be sending the Stone of Destiny. And you're like, so as my understanding very roughly is that it's the stone on which the King of Scotland is crowned, and he, as much as it's happening in London, for now at least, is still technically going to be the King of Scotland because of the political union or whatever. So what's the beef? Is it you just don't want it to go to England? And then if that's the case, then that is a bit like anti-English sentiment. I know we go, English politics is fucked.
Yeah.
But that's very much a like, no, I'm just no sending shit to England. And you're like, well, it's technically part of their history as well. You know what I mean? Like, as much as we might not like that, you know what I mean? Like, but to me, I'm also like, this is a ridiculous conversation about a slab of fucking stone. Like, who the fuck cares? You know what I mean?
Like,
a
slab
people
is it not from Jerusalem? So another treasure that we've plundered and brought back, even though it's just a rock.
I think it's supposed to be the stone that in the story of Cain and Abel.
Okay.
Genuinely.
What,
like
the one that he crushed his heat in?
Something like that, man. That's like, it goes that fucking deep, man. It's like weird.
I went as far back as it getting stolen and like people hiding it and it getting found again.
I think like the Stone of Destiny is supposed to so you're supposed to get, would it be coronated? But you're supposed to get coronated in front of the whole Commonwealth,
right?
And obviously back in the day, before TV and radio and blah blah blah, the stone is the symbolic representation of the people of the Commonwealth.
Okay.
So that's what it's supposed to be. And there's like a whole, like, I mean, we've seen a couple of like videos of them, Remember the guys that were going in reporting war crimes?
I like to report a crime.
Because Robert the Bruce wasn't getting shown at the UGC. Did you ever see that?
No.
There was guys walked into Pitt Street, like the police headquarters in Glasgow, and wanted to report an international war crime because the UGC in Glasgow Renfield Street refused to show Robert the Bruce.
Why did they refuse to show Robert?
Because it was shy.
Because it was terrible.
Oh, well, that's fair.
And it had the dude that played Robert the Bruce in Braveheart in it, and he's no done anything since Braveheart.
It's like a sequel, but no a sequel. Like, you know what I mean?
Like horrific. It's like, and
I think I've seen that. Though.
sold no tickets and blah blah blah, and they took it away, and these fucking loon balls went up to Pitt Street and were like, "This is an international war crime against the Scottish people."
See, when Alex Salmon says to I don't think the Stone of Destiny should be going to England. That is broadly speaking where my head went to. Alex Salmon going, "There's been a war crime."
Aye, absolutely. But these guys, I met one of these guys once, and I'll no name names. I don't even know the guy's fucking name, but he told me that the
I remember the names, but I'm not going to say that.
When the Stone of Destiny got stole by the university guys for Glasgow University in the 60s.
Yep.
The MI5 found it in a house in Bearsden.
Oh, we got a new shielded conspiracy theory here.
So this is what this guy's telling me, and that. So I'll give you some broad strokes because he basically sat in this very room and spoke for like 3 hours on this.
Right.
And I think I deleted the video because I
of
sent it to him
MI5.
and I deleted it. But MI5 came and blah blah blah. And if you look at the stone, it's different now and all that sort of stuff. And he believes they believe that it's in the Mitchell Library.
Oh, the Arlington. There's a replica in the Arlington. pub,
somewhere around about this area, the Arlington at the Mitchell Library, it's still there. And that lecturer for Glasgow University had it, and it delegitimises
the entire line of Windsor or whatever it is.
Exactly.
That included the coronation of Queen Elizabeth as well. Like that was like her coronation onwards is apparently now
exactly
defunct.
And within this, he says that there's some sort of passage in the Bible that says that in the geographical location that Glasgow's like a special city. You know, I was just like, what is going on here?
That's like pure. What's the lines?
Yeah, it got a bit fucking weird. And then he said that the Stone of Destiny is the key that will unlock the cube in, is it Islamabad?
Okay.
They've got the big black cube that they all like run and stuff like that. Mecca? Is that Mecca? And that is the key that opens it.
Okay.
And that the people
and do we know what's
Glasgow,
inside?
He didn't go that far.
Aliens.
The people of Glasgow went. Exactly.
So Matrix Terminator.
So there's just like a
Kung
wee
Fu
sort
Terminator.
of Scottish conspiracy theory for everybody, including the Stone of Destiny.
So you want to hear something absolutely else mental that's tied to the line of Windsor? It was Disney fucking the guy Ron DeSantis. So see, because Florida passed pure heavy anti-gay legislation where you can't even say it in schools without running the risk of being sacked. Disney came out and went, no, we're going to fight against this. And he was like, oh, really? I'm literally going to legislate against your company because you fucked with me. So Disney lives in this tax area, a special tax area in Florida where they make their own rules. And they've always voted in their own people as the custodians of this. And basically DeSantis fucking was like, nah, and emptied it out and put all his people on it, so that basically his people were running Disneyland, and they were pure, okay, cool. So they then went away before the last ever meeting is what they were, and basically voted to gear up all their power. So DeSantis' people went in and took her a board that had no power left whatsoever. So then he's
they not also say that did they not spend something like fucking $2 million a month maintaining the grounds,
the roads and stuff like that,
and the Florida government take nothing to do with that. So Disney were basically you've not got a bill for this as well.
Now, because these types of things, these types of agreements and who runs what for how long have got limited times on them, there's a law that goes all the way back to fucking Charles I, where you can basically tie the ownership of certain property to a certain person for a certain period of time. And what Disney said was when we get rid of all these powers and you take over, this will be the status quo for this until the line of Windsor ends. So Disney actually tied the ownership of this tax haven, because you can just pick anybody. Right. It's meant to be about inheritance. So usually it would be when your dad dies, 21 years will pass and then it'll 40 you. You know what I mean? But this is now 21 years will pass through the line that Windsor ending because the random person they picked was like Prince Charles in the line of Windsor. So like they actually used the British royal family to like fuck DeSantis out of control at like Disneyland.
That's genius.
I was like, this was like this was for like the 16th century. You know what I mean? Like it came to America with English colonists.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so that's how far Disney were like, no, how can we fuck with this guy? And they're like, aye, so we're going to hit you well off of the 16th century, and then we're going to tie the result of it to the succession of the British royal family. Like, good luck. And it was just like one of the pure like mic drop moments where he's just like, I'm going to need to think of something else now, but he's got fuck all. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. But aye, Stone of Destiny.
Oh, sorry, aye.
Pretty fucking mental shit. Should I just fucking pop that out, shouldn't I? Just put that video on YouTube and but it was mental, mate. It was mental. I mean, the guy came in here and put magnets about the place and all that and was talking about how I need to surround myself with magnets. It helps me with my brainwaves and that's how they get you. Like, it's magnetic fields that change your cognitive ability and that's how everybody's suffering for depression.
How the fuck did you delete
like
this
that.
video?
It's just like, it's crazy, man. It's because... why did I delete it? Well, the guy paid for it, and I was just like, I don't really want
we're going to need to come to some sort of like informal agreement when somebody gets that mental in here. You keep it and we watch it and have a laugh. You know what I mean? Like,
Aye, absolutely. He kept on doing stuff as well, like, remember this? Remember when that happened? It was just him looking down a camera. Remember that? And I was just like, I don't remember that. Do you know what I mean? Like, remember when this happened? And I was like, am I getting some sort of like Mandela effect here? Like, I don't remember these events that this guy's claiming to fucking hang me. But aye, the Stone of Destiny apparently is tied to some sort of like mad fucking 3,000-year-old prophecy. That
is going to be the rabbit hole I'm doing tonight. So it's like,
I tried to find stuff, right? And I said to him, like, when he left, although I'll tell you what, right? He said to me, like, do you believe? And I was like, no offense, mate, but no. And he said to me, if you don't believe me, I'll tell you what. So this is like November 2021. He was like, the Queen's already dead. And I was like, okay. And he's like, but they'll write her out the script within the next 12 months. And he's like, and I guarantee it. And she did die. And I remember when the Queen died, I did text somebody going, holy shit, man. Like that. But then I was also like, you know, you could sling mud at the wall.
Well, aye, she was, what was it, 92 or something, you know what I mean?
And she was in ill health, I'm pretty sure.
I think it's been a while. She's not been great and stuff
like that.
But if fair fucks them, that's what a good conspiracy theory gives you, is that sort of like moment of pause where you're like, wait a minute. And then you're like, no, hold on, I'm no crazy. And then you go back to your life, you know what I mean? Or you should at least anyway. But aye, there is the good ones of that moment where you go, no. And then he's just like, I just dissociate from it and move on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that guy yesterday must have been having a fucking field day watching that. He must have been like, it's no fucking real.
Aye.
No.
Aye, he was saying stuff like, you know, they use a combination of like holograms and historical footage to make it seem like people are still alive when they're actually already dead and stuff like that.
Like,
so
to what end? But that's the one I don't ever get about these things. Was
to
like,
keep the narrative going, to keep the, like, they don't do that in like Hunger Games or something like that, where they're like, you know in the movie, like, this person's dead, but they keep on like showing shit, like, look at them, pure way. Oh no, the Running Man, which is pretty much like an early version of the fucking Hunger Games. There's like a bit in that where they're like pure, look at
they're on the beaches
winners,
like winners and
they're
stuff
on
like
the
that.
beaches pure, woo, and then it cuts to it and they've got like their dead bodies like dotted about inside the fucking game, and it's about like keeping their narrative going, and that's what he was talking about, like, it's all controlled, and it all feeds into like the David Icke Lizard people stuff and all that. Like there's bits of it, he was cherry picking bits of like a lot, but he was just like,
this is the thing about conspiracy theories, you very rarely ever find one that is completely unique and original. They are always or almost always like riffing off it and borrowing like themes and ideas for something else, because they're generally made up by people who are not smart enough to bring that type of originality to something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
or they come out as true.
They all happen to accidentally be right.
Exactly. So we had the first sign that we're probably going to get a Labour government. I think that the Tories had a monumental disaster, like a council election.
The English council elections. I seen I was following it up to the deadline for the voter registration that we were talking about a few weeks ago. And they were saying that of the roughly 2 million people who needed to apply for photo ID or some form or other, the figure was something like 3 to 4% uptake. So like potentially hundreds of thousands of people, you know, potentially close to millions of people now registered to vote. At council elections, the turnout is hilariously low almost all the time anyway. Right. So I'm not sure how many of those 2 million people or so would have been expected to actually vote in like local council elections, because I think the turnout is, I think you're lucky in most places turnout's at like 20%, you know what I mean? Like, just know it's just hard to motivate people to go to the polls every couple of years like that when there's other European and referendums and elections and blah blah. People just get fed up, and just, I think local council elections have always been the one that have the lowest sort of turnout. So we'll need to wait to maybe close to a general election to see. But then we had pretty solid campaigns for like Hope Not Hate, or social media or YouTube explaining to people, you know, that they needed photo ID, what they needed and stuff like that. So there are already people mobilising, you know, on quite a sizable scale against it. You know what I mean?
You could, I would have tried, if there is, like, I don't know if it's going to come in Scotland, like you need ID. I've got fucking plenty of fucking ID.
Aye.
But you can use that. You don't want to get caught out trying to get your ID sorted when it comes to a general election. So
no,
it would have been more ideal if more people turned out. I mean, obviously, ideally, you want the most amount of people to turn out for elections, but it would have been probably better for a lot of people to just get their ducks in a row, make sure that they can go and vote, and then they know for like the general election, it's definitely there. I mean, there was,
I think again, the Tories got a bit of a tank in it.
Well, they did, but again, social media, how much do you believe there was stories of people getting turned away, even though that they had, they were saying that was it pensioners were allowed to come up with like a bus pass?
So the Oyster card, so this is where the voter suppression element in it comes, where they're actively trying to exclude younger people and people in sort of poorer demographics who, you know, paying 60, 70 quid for a passport or a driver's license is potentially quite a big deal. But the Oyster card was one that pensioners apparently could use to register for their government mandated photo ID, but they were saying that students couldn't use the student version of the Oyster card. So that, you know, the policy itself is there in black and white, actively excluding sort of young people for the process. Again,
did you get an explanation for that?
I don't think they did. I seen as well, you know, Tories leafleting, and put that one in our group chat, where the Tories were actively leafleting saying you don't need photo ID. So actually, like, going out into like Labour areas and like heavily leafleting saying like, don't worry about it, you don't need your voter ID, and like people were like, what the fuck's this? And actually like tagging the Tories and the Electoral Commission and stuff like that in it. So be interesting to see what comes of that. It'll probably be another sort of measly like 20, 30 grand fine, as is always the case with these things, you know what I mean? There's never any incentive not to commit election fraud, you know what I mean? So they do, you know what I mean?
I heard a thing yesterday that said if there's a law that the repercussions are a fine, then it's a law for the poor.
Yep. It's optional for everybody else, exactly.
That's crazy. I mean, I'm wondering if it's because, I mean, did the pensioners get a free Oyster card and they need to apply through like a .gov website or something?
They're just statistically more likely to vote in these types of elections, and they're statistically more likely to vote Tory, and it's literally just about gerrymandering the system.
Right.
So it is like, so as we say, we'll see how that goes at the general election. I don't know how much it moved the dial in terms of a local election when turnout is generally pretty low in the first place.
I'd seen that Keir Starmer had removed for one council. He had told 14 elected councillors that they weren't allowed to rerun in that council because I think they were like Corbyn's, you know, like a part of this percentage of people that have joined the Labour Party.
Socialists.
And surprise, surprise, they lost fucking 17 seats in that council and they all went to Tory.
Of course they did.
Which is I mean, like, you're like, what are you doing?
Starmer would rather see seats with Tories than with like radical left Labour people. You know what I mean? Like, he's shown that time and again, but he's talking about how he's going to become Prime Minister and all the rest. He's now at this point where, you know, Blair kind of was before the election, where everybody everywhere knows it's a foregone conclusion, and even he is starting to be a bit like, I'm going to be the next Prime Minister because he's going to be the next Prime Minister.
He's leaving a door
you know what I mean?
Like, because you're watching Question Time on Thursday night and they've got no even like Tory media people, but actual people concerned about saying, like, if there was a poll that was saying nobody really knows what this guy stands for.
Aye.
And if it comes down to a fight for personalities, which they kind of have in the last sort of 20 years, you'll like start to get a bit fucking worried. But then again,
Sunak has got the personality of like a first-time YouTuber. So he has, like, when he talks to the camera and he's all, "Hi guys, yeah," and you know, he's just like, "Mate."
But the people that are going to vote for him know what he fucking stands for. He's money, and he's more money, and he's more money for their type. So
I bet the problem is that in safeguarding his and his pals' money, they fucked everybody else's money. So it is, and that is the only question that is up for debate now. Is you have monumental. Nobody gave a fuck about COVID deaths. Nobody gave a fuck about Partygate. You know, it took overwhelming, sustained pressure to get any sort of movement on it whatsoever. Like, it looks like he's basically going to use the process now, Johnson that is, to maybe even manipulate where he stands at the next general election, because the standards committee that he's going through just now could essentially result in him being barred from standing in his own seat, which at the moment does not look like a safe seat for him anyway. And they're saying that he is essentially hoping to be suspended or whatever it is, so that he's barred for running in his own seat, because there are like other like outrageously safe seats that are about to be vacated by people who are retiring, and he basically wants the opportunity to go and basically hoover up one of these safer seats by getting essentially binned out his own seat for Partygate and stuff like that. Like, so even when we did take action against it, the entire process was manipulated to essentially make sure that Johnson stays in a seat and stays on the gravy train. You know what I mean? Like, but we'll wait and see on that one. As I say, he can't just jump seats. He needs to be like, "Oh, well, I don't have a seat and you don't have a candidate, so let's do this." You know what I mean? Like, but he can only do that if he's kicked out his own ability to stand for re-election.
Aye, I find that weird. I think that's fucking. I mean,
the process is archaic.
Strange that it's like, you know. It looks like
look at the coronation. The whole system is archaic. You know what I mean? Like,
it's like the fucking railway, telecommunications, parliament, and the fucking royal family. Like, it's literally falling apart at the fucking seams and like rusty, like a pure old rusty system. But I just find that strange. It like looks like I'm going to get beat here, and I'm a really important frontline member of the Conservative Party. So therefore, let's shift it here so that I can keep in, stay being an MP. And that's like. Basically, you've done such a shit job
that you're getting chased at the door.
You're getting chased out the door that you just walk into another job and you're still getting
it's like the fucking money. The meme, the Simpsons meme with fucking who's the mad alky, where his little Mo kicks him out and then turns around and he's sat there
with a moustache on or something. Aye, Barney. Aye,
sitting there. That's Johnson. It's like the Parliament's like pure. Out you go, pal, and they turn around and he sat at the bar with a jar, like pure. Right, lads.
Aye, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Fucking weird, man. Weird. I was going to say one last thing about the one thing that you didn't see on the BBC, other than Channel 4, really mammoth games for the Greens, like huge. I think it was places where they, for the first time, and I mean obviously in like general elections, for the first time in council elections, there's Green ran councils in England.
That's a good sign.
I think so too, man.
You know what I mean? Like, I know there are differences between how they run north and south of the party, and they have like actual. I'm pretty sure they have actual like independent sort of policy for each other that you don't see in other sort of large Westminster parties. But they've been threatening to break through for a while, the Greens in England. I think in the sort of pre-Brexit times, they polled very, very similar numbers to guys like UKIP, guys like Brexit Party, where they were in that sort of 5 to 10%, where, you know, if you get up to 15, 20%, which I believe they are moving in that direction, that you're going to start landing seats, you're going to start landing councils and stuff like that. That's still a long way off in terms of sort of first past the post, even though I think they have like maybe one or two in England, I'm not sure. But any gains for people who actively don't want our planet to die while we're on it would be useful. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. So to wrap up, we'll talk about the situation with Joanna Cherry and her Fringe show at the Stand in Edinburgh.
Oh, aye. The latest.
Educate
the
me.
latest.
I don't even know.
Right, so
episode in cancel culture.
Yes, so it's like Joanna Cherry she was the QC for the SNP under Salmon.
I think she was also at one point the deputy lead in Westminster behind Angus Robertson.
I'm
right,
sure so after like sort of 2016's general 2015's general election.
She stepped away for a lot of these things as the gender debate started.
Yeah, so she's very much knee deep in the culture war.
Say step away, she was sacked. Right.
She was sacked. Aye, she's very much knee deep in the culture war of gender. This is where she's one of these people that's hanging her hat on it. She's making it define like the later parts of her
it
career.
certainly feels
What
like
side does she sit on?
She's sitting on the
gender critical.
So she's like J.K. Rowling's sort of side. We've tried to stay away from this, other than saying that we believe that trans people should have human rights. But as far as like the gender argument and what the way that they've sort of like whittled it down to the sort of biology, I've got no real interest in getting bogged down in it. But what happened was she booked a show in the Edinburgh Stand during the Fringe
there was
Festival.
a series of conversations booked by a third party, and she was one of the people who was booked to speak during this sort of series of talks.
Right, it was like in conversation with Joanna Cherry, wasn't it?
But there's 2 or 3 other events that are the exact same thing, run by the whole thing is run by the one
and
group.
Do we know who the other people are?
I think it was just a fringe promoter. It wasn't
Right,
wasn't
okay.
anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a
Nothing.
mix of people. It wasn't like it wasn't like a deliberate bias, and it was just like, here are 4 people who are going to be in and around the fringe,
and what
and
happened
might be
was,
interesting to talk to.
and this happened like last year with Jerry Sadowitz. The staff the staff decided that they did not want to work. So the staff at the Stand in Edinburgh pulled together and said, if that's what's happening, we won't work at it. And then the Stand
his run had already started, but it was more that I think they found his content objectionable once he got started.
Yes,
because he'd done a couple of nights and was like, why is
it was
this
the
an
same
issue?
thing. It was like what power, really. Like the workers came together,
and I
went,
think it
"We
was
don't want
around his comments around trans and sort of
that."
gender.
He got his dick out
Was
on
the last
stage.
day, okay.
Aye, he was like exposing himself on stage at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival at a 4:30 p.m. show that was not marked as over 18 and stuff like that.
Right,
So
okay.
I think there was a good bit of sort of Sadowitz controversy.
That seems pretty fair. Like, but also what you would expect from Jerry.
That's what he's been doing for 20 years.
That's what was said last year is that what did you expect for Jerry Sadowitz? Do you know what I mean? And like to be outraged that Jerry Sadowitz doing that's like kind of ridiculous.
That's quite sad though, like to think, because comedy is like, in my opinion, the one of the only areas that should never be ever censored, ever, regardless of how bad it is or whatever, because it has, like, you have to ask these questions. And I guess this is where we're going to go in terms of this conversation, is to like cancelling down this woman is not a positive thing. Like, if you want to change opinions or like actually like get these issues to some kind of,
we need to talk about them.
You need to talk about it. You can't.
I agree with that. I think on the Jerry Sadowitz thing, it's against the law to expose yourself.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
I get you. See, like
Within the
comedy,
boundaries,
absolutely. Comedy is one of the sort of bastions of like free speech, and
But if you're going to come at it with free speech, you also have to understand that you have responsibilities as a result of that.
and there'll be
And
consequences.
not be like rubbing your dick in people's face. You can't be like,
no.
this is free speech, motherfucker. You're like, no, this is a dick in my face,
would-
and I don't want
yeah,
it.
yeah.
You know
So,
what I mean?
like, I don't
want to
think
work
that-
in a building where somebody's running about with their dick in people's faces.
For instance, like,
and I don't want my name associated to any venue that would like allow somebody to run about putting this dick
I
in people's
agree.
face.
I
You know what I mean?
think,
So
like-
there is that kind of like, also like, if you're going to be that, cool, but understand that it's no responsibility free. And that's my big beef with the cancel culture shit, is that people they want responsibility free speech. They don't want free speech, if you get me. They want to be able to say whatever they want and have it not matter to them. But then look at yesterday, where all these bastions of fucking free speech, the Morgans and the whatever the fuck, the Grimeses and all these other GB News types and all the rest of it. Where were they yesterday when people were getting arrested for saying "not my king"? Like, they were nowhere. Then anything, they were like fucking sucking up to the privileged few that were out there yesterday. Like, so you don't get to switch it on and off to suit you, and you don't get to set conditions on it. But if you're going to hide behind it, you need to understand that it is not freedom from responsibility that you're getting. And if you are Joanna Cherry, who has a lengthy list of examples of the type of speech that she has in terms of her understanding of her feminism and whatever else, right? I'm not going to get anybody agree or no. I think we've been clear, as I said, trans people deserve human dignity like anybody else, and the rest of that is probably no conversation for you and I, because we don't have any skin in the game. You know what I mean?
Aye.
Like,
we support people's white guys. Like, you know what I mean?
We support people's right to dignity, but like when you have a history of comments and things like that these staff can rightfully make that decision on, how it is them saying, well, we don't want somebody who holds these views on our stage, we don't want to have to work for, in the exact same way that they don't want somebody in there in the building with a dick in their face. Like, if you're going to like live by the sword, you know, you die by the sword. You know what I mean?
I agree with that. Like the bit that I wanted to talk about is like Dave was saying, to have a conversation about like what should we do about these types of scenarios. I mean, I think at first the stand were just kind of like, we're going to allow it because it's, you know, like you're saying, Dave, like, I agree with what Dave was saying. Like, we need to have conversations about this. We also need to allow people to...
Conversation has to be in good faith, though. And I think a lot of the time when we speak about people like Cherry or, you know, Rolling or whatever else, the conversation they're having is not in good faith. Like, and I don't believe so anyway in a lot of instances. Like, if you want to sit there and talk, like, cool, let's talk. Let's actually fucking sort this out and let's fix it and let's make people's lives better, right? But what I'm not going to do is come into a conversation where we know the other side is looking for an angle to grind from the get-go. And
coming up with like using hypotheticals and sort of
because
fear-mongering tactics.
Gender criticals have, a lot of the fears they have so far are imaginary. Now, on any subject, any matter, like, there is going to be examples that they can point to, like the recent thing with women in prisons and all the rest of it. Like, there are examples, but they're not like the be all and end all. They're not indicative of like wider patterns of behaviour. And when, you know, there's 16 in a Scottish prison and one was an issue, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Like, and there was so much like bad information about that, such as like general population and all that sort of stuff.
Telling people you're cancelled in a newspaper, telling people you're cancelled at the ballot box.
This was the bit that
bad faith.
You have a platform. This is the bit that I really like was like, wait a minute. She was going like, this is because. She basically on Twitter was sort of alluding to, this is because I'm a lesbian, and people were like, no, wait a minute.
Absolutely no evidence of that whatsoever.
And also, you were not cancelled. It's
Queen's
literally
Council should know that. There's no evidence there.
You're not cancelled because, you know, the Stand as an institution, when they announced it, they got a lot of flack, but they were just kind of like, no, but it's happening.
I also read it in 4 newspapers.
But it was the staff that work there. I don't think that that's the same as being cancelled. Like, they were... And it's not because, like, they were trying to say, like, you know, she was like, this is because I'm a feminist lesbian. And it's like, I don't know if that's true. It's like the people who work there, who are hired by that company, have united and said that they don't want to work there if you are going to do this chat. And that them as a business have decided that, well, they'll cancel that event because their staff are not happy with that. I don't think there's anything really wrong with that.
To be fair, you know I would say in that's people protesting, and in that case, like, absolutely, like, I agree that's people.
Go and find another venue.
That's people's
people
opinion. There'll be other venues. There'll be other people that will take it on. So, like, there's other options there. And I wouldn't say that's necessarily. I wouldn't even say that that's necessarily cancel culture. That's just people standing up for what they think
they believe in
that workplace, which is totally fair. You could easily have a restaurant that gets a booking for Piers Morgan and they decide, do you know what, I'm not cooking for that guy. For whatever reasons, it's your opinion, it's your place, you do what you want, right? That's fine. But like cancel culture in general, I think is a very dangerous and negative thing. Like, I don't think that cancel culture, it's a term that I've only even used out of my mouth in the past 3-4 years, which is crazy because, like, it's probably been going on longer, but now it's got this name and it doesn't do anyone any good, cancel culture. And the thing is, cancel culture works so far. These people cancel, and until they get cancelled. And that's when they go, oh shit, this cancel culture's fucked.
I would, the thing about like the whole culture, like, I would like to hear who's been cancelled.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you know, like if we were to, the ones that really popped to my mind are like Alex Jones.
Like Roseanne, when she was being racist while off her face on drugs. Allegedly, what she said, she was on drugs.
Like the ones that I've seen, like Louis C.K., like, that's not cancel culture.
He's not been cancelled.
and he's still fucking touring.
he's
And I
still
played with
touring,
fucking
aye.
Hydro. So it's like, how, what happened? Like, who's been cancelled? Like, what? I think there's a whole thing about this and a whole lot of fear of like fucking cancel culture, and it is dangerous if it is happening in the way that it's been explained on the internet, and then when you actually get into it, you're like, wait a minute, like who's been
Aye,
cancelled?
this person gets sacked for this newspaper article and immediately was hired by another newspaper. This person was sacked by this TV station, was immediately hired by another TV news station. Like, it's empty rhetoric. That's what I mean about the good faith, bad faith element. If somebody wants to actually sit down and as a society have a proper conversation about how we resolve things, fine. But the people at the head of these conversations, in some cases on both sides, are, you know, agenda driven, and it negates the, you know, the actual genuine desire to resolve these issues. And like, Joanna Cherry has not been cancelled. She is a sitting MP in like one of the most famous parliaments historically in the world. Like, she still has every word that she says published that is negative against the government policy. She's already been criticised Sturgeon, she's criticised Yousaf. Every word of that has been printed. Like, she's not being cancelled, and like, she knows she is not being cancelled, like, because she is an incredibly intelligent woman. Like, she is a King's Counsel, she is amongst the highest echelon of fucking lawyers in the country, like, to the point where the Scottish government sent her to the High Court to litigate on its own independence, which is its number one priority. Like, she is not understanding that she is acting in bad faith. She is deliberately choosing to frame her argument in bad faith because she knows that only a certain amount of people are going to listen to it anyway, and then those who do listen to her, it needs to have as much an impact as possible.
What is her argument? Like, because like I said, I don't really know much about this woman, but you're saying it's down the line of like J.K. Rowling. Like,
it's that, you know, they're against self-identification.
It feels like it's the erasure of lesbians and various other bits and bobs, which again, it may or may not be. I don't know. I'm no qualified to talk on any of these.
Own women's rights,
but it very much feels to me like a disrespect to people's dignity.
Analogy quite a lot about like these predatory men are going to identify as trans women and rape our daughters in toilets,
and completely fictitious.
And it's just and it's like that. Like, Matt's like, see when you see a news article that comes out of like fucking right wing swamp America about like they're like pure look, see it's coming true. This is, and it's just like it's exactly what Matt said. It's like fictitious, hypothetical fear mongering, and
nonsense.
And it is just nonsense.
It just feels like distraction. It's just division again. Like something
dragged into it. No, this is like an intelligent and principled like politician and like public servant. Like, and I think that gets lost in the conversation because we disagree on one thing. Like, but at the same time, let's say she's smart enough to know exactly what she's doing and making a conscious choice to do that. To then come out and be like, oh, I'm being cancelled is absolute bullshit. She is using the terminology that she knows that tabloid editors are going to hoover up and republish to then get her horrendous message out on the back of it. She does not give a fuck about the Stand. She gives a fuck that the Daily Mail, the Telegraph, the Sun and blah, blah, blah are all going to pick up what she's saying and run with on fucking page 4 or 5. Yeah. The minute she says cancel culture, because that's the button that they're all pressing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and it's a really horrible, really sort of calculated thing. And as I say, it's at the expense of people's dignity. And that's where I'm like, nah, fuck her. And for the guys at the Stand, I think they've got a right to as well, because it's like the folk who get fucking demonetized off of YouTube for breaking the terms and conditions, right? They can't be like, oh, I've brought fucking 500 million views to YouTube. And you're like, aye, but dude, clear as day, here are the rules. And you've just broke 3 of them with this particular video. So, aye, they took your money and they cancelled your channel because you didn't play by the rules. Like, and like venues, they have terms and conditions the same. Any business does. Any business has got the right to refuse entry. Any business has got the right for, and it's just a flat fact that they have the right to do that. And in this instance, they've exercised that right because their staff have went, if you book that person, you'll man it yourself. Fair enough. And they've went, okay.
Yeah. Okay. You know so we're going to try and catch the Celtic game and wrap up here. So if you've enjoyed the conversation, please like, subscribe, do all that. Engage on. We're on Twitter at Rebel City Pod, and we're on Instagram at Rebel City Pod as well. But
and post a link in the Our Royal Family Reddit thread.
Yep.
For the Coronation. Get some engagement.
Not safe for work.
So stop the party.